This video is to show you how to do a request for repairs if you're representing the buyer and respond to a request for repairs if you're representing the seller. Okay, one important note on the request for repair, make sure that you don't submit a request for repair until all of the buyer's inspections have been done, including the appraisal, because you only want to go to the well, so to speak, once. Sellers don't want to get multiple requests for repairs. It's very important in keeping everything going well in the process, okay? So, like with all forms, you'll do the date prepared here, the property address, the buyer's name, the seller's name, okay? And then you need to check one of the boxes. So most typically this will be what's checked, but it could be any number of these, right? So buyer requests that seller prior to final verification of condition, repair, or to take the other specified actions for each item listed below. Now, if there's too many items, you can attach a list, but what you're going to put here are the things that the buyer is asking the seller to fix. Now, maybe a home inspection found a true safety issue. That would be a legitimate thing to ask for. What we don't want to ask for is nitpicky things, right? Things that are going to cost your buyer maybe $2 to fix, right? We don't want, if the best way to get a seller to agree is to not be nitpicky. We'll have lots of coaching around how to handle those expectations. But you'll list the items here that you wish to ask to be repaired, including if an appraisal comes back with conditions, meaning there are some repairs that need to be done in order for that loan to fund, or the loan won't happen. Those would commonly be put on here. Now, that doesn't mean the seller has to pay for them just because they're on here, and or that it's requested by the appraiser. The buyer can pay for them, but most likely you'll be asking the seller. The other options here are you can ask for section 1 or section 2 of any termite or pest inspection to be done if there are issues there. Or you can simply ask for a credit at close of escrow instead of having these repairs done. And that oftentimes is a win-win for everybody because the buyer can choose who they want to do the repairs and can take care of things when they move in. And it's one less thing to hold up closing by having to have repairs done. Now, keep in mind, if you are requesting a credit, if the seller is already paying the maximum allowable credits that the loan allows, this is not an option for in that situation, okay? But if they have not asked, or they have not asked for all of the allowable, then you would be able to do this. If they agree to that, you would also need to use an addendum that would state seller to pay X amount toward buyer's prepaids and or closing costs. And that just means the buyer comes with that much less money in at closing. So it's the same thing, because a seller, in the lender's eyes, a seller cannot give the buyer money. And so that's how we work that. Okay, now if you are going to ask for anything, then you should be attaching the reports that have the items that you're asking for. Okay, FHA, if these lender required repairs don't happen, the loan can't fund. Okay, we mentioned that earlier, but that is important to note. So that's just a little disclaimer here for the FHA and VA buyer. Okay. Now, if seller agrees to all of buyer's requests or some of buyer's requests, and buyer accepts seller's partial agreement below, it's automatically written that buyer removes the investigation of property contingency. Okay, so if seller agrees, that means the investigation contingency is removed. Now, if there's one that you can't remove yet because something hasn't taken place, you can put a checkbox here and write in that one. Okay, or you can do buyer removes those contingencies identified on the attached CR form, the contingency removal form. And then that also is given along with this. And when your buyer is able to or willing to remove those contingencies, the seller is more likely to want to help with some of these repairs. Okay, now the seller can respond on this document, but then they would also attach the seller's response to the request for repairs. So the seller has options here. They can agree to all of the repairs, some of the repairs, and then they would list what they are doing and not doing, right? They can agree to a credit. They can agree to modify the purchase price. So seller responds to buyer's request on a R form. And so that's what's next. So if that's the case, because maybe there's more to do, you can go ahead and click that, which that's this form. So again, the date prepared, that it is in answer to requests for repair. Number one, in this case, that was dated. Okay, then you're going to have the property address, the buyer and seller's name. And here again, they can either do all or some, they can give a credit, they can modify the price. Okay, so this also states seller's agreement only applies if buyer removes the investigation contingency. Okay, so it is understood if the seller agrees to the repairs that the investigation contingencies will then be removed. But you do want to have that in writing with either this form or the contingency removal form. Okay, and your TC can help you with that. And when it comes to this, don't worry if you don't remember all of this, we will gladly help you. Make sure for any questions you visit us at Ask a Coach, email us at askacoach@gmail.com, or ask us in WhatsApp, and we'll be happy to help you with any of this.